Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel for another quick champion guide. And today we're taking a look at Sandman here, who was just buffed this month after his rebalancing period ended. Sandman, very easy to learn, a ton of fun to play. Animations are absolutely fantastic. He's not the fastest science champ out there, of course, but he is reliable and he's tanky enough that he can finish most of his fights at or close to full health. Okay, let's start off with the same question that I always do on these guides, and that is, does Sandman need to be awakened? And I gotta be honest with you, this one was very difficult to come up with a definitive answer on. So I did end up going with a no here, and let me explain why. So the dupe doesn't really impact how you play Sandman, but it does impact how long you have to play him for. Let me show you what I mean. So if we take a look at the signature ability here, the first part says, while unstable, Sandman grants a Fury passive, granting additional attack rating. So when you play Sandman, you really want to stay in that unstable phase as long as possible. Additional attack is additional damage. That's always good. The initial dupe is going to give you the second bullet point, however, which says that his heavy proficiency passives grant an additional attack rating. So those stack up to 8 every time you use a heavy. Subsequent heavies are going to deal more damage. So you do get a lot of value from the initial dupe, or even at Sig 1. And then additional Sig levels up to 200 are going to steadily increase his overall damage rating. So in fights where you're not timed, or there are nodes where, going really fast is not really necessary, you can absolutely get by without the dupe. On the other hand, if you are going to primarily use him in Alliance War or Battlegrounds, I think you're really going to want that dupe and as many Sig levels as you can give him for that increased damage. I think that's especially true for Alliance War, because as of this month when his buff went live, his burst damage that we're going to talk about in a bit is now based off of his modified attack rating. So if you're boosted like you usually are in Alliance War, you're going to be getting even more value out of that signature ability. Alright, so having said all of that, let's go ahead and jump into some gameplay. Okay, so the very first thing you want to know about Sandman is that his light and medium attacks grant him these blue resistance up passives, and they can stack up to 20. You also gain 5 of these passives from the special 1 and 10 of them from the special 2, and this is going to be pretty important for later. Now, when he hits 20 of these passives, he switches into a mode called Unstable and becomes passively unstoppable. Now, your primary goal with Sandman is to trigger the Unstable mode as frequently as possible, and while you're in it, land as many heavy attacks as you can. Using a heavy while unstable will root the opponent in place, consume up to 5 of those resistance passives, and deal a burst of physical damage for every personal debuff on the defender. Every subsequent heavy will multiply this damage, and if you're getting the maximum of 4 heavies in, you're going to see some really nice red numbers. One thing that you really want to keep in mind with Sandman is that your magic numbers when it comes to those resistance up passives are going to be 14 for the special 1 and 9 for the special 2. When you're at either of those totals, that is the special that you want to have ready, and you'll see why here in just a second. Alright, let's walk through a typical fight. This is an example specifically focused on damage. So to start out, I'm building up my resistance passives with basic attacks. My goal here is to use my special 1 when I hit 14 stacks. The special 1 is going to grant me 5 more and leave me at a total of 19. And from there, what I'm going to do is bait out Drax's special, punish it with a medium to trigger Unstoppable, and immediately start charging my heavy. Drax hits into my heavy, which releases it, and then from here I'm doing 3 additional heavies. You're starting to see the damage increase with each one, and then my burst phase is over. Okay, so let's freeze the video here for a second, because I do want to point out a couple of things before we continue. So the first thing is something that I mentioned earlier, and that is the heavy proficiency stacks that you're seeing there. So each heavy grants us a stack of heavy proficiency. They stack up to 8 right now and are going to increase the attack rating of every subsequent heavy for the rest of the fight. And if you have him duped, again, these are going to be a bit stronger. And number 2, notice how at this point in the fight, I've concluded my first burst phase. You'll probably have roughly a bar of power or so, because unlike burst champs that rely on special attacks to do their damage, Sandman relies on his heavy attacks, which means as you are in your burst phase, you are already setting yourself up for the next burst phase by using those heavies and generating more power for yourself. Okay, so you're back in stable mode. You want to start building up those resistances again. However, since you're close to your special 2, you only need to get up to 9 this time, since the SP2 is going to grant you 10, and that will again leave you at 19. So go ahead, launch your special 2, bait out a special, punish again with a medium to trigger unstable, and start the burst cycle all over again. Remember that the more debuffs you have applied, the more damage you're going to do, which is why you really want to use your specials before you trigger unstable, so that each of your 4 heavy attacks is guaranteed to give you the most damage possible. Now this is a relatively small health pool, only about 200k, so this second burst phase ends up finishing the fight, but in a longer fight you would want to just rinse and repeat with a special 2. And again, you're already kind of set up for your next burst phase at the end of the previous one. Alright, let's take a look at that same fight in real time. So to start, we're going to be building up our resistance up passes with basic attacks. And the goal here again is to throw our special 1 when we have 14. The special will give us 5, which will bring us to a grand total of 19. And then from there, what we're going to do is bait out a special attack from Drax, punish it with a medium, which is going to trigger unstable, and then we're going to charge our heavy, let him hit into us, and then from here we're just going to spam heavy attacks until we're out of resistance ups. And again, you can get a maximum of 4 heavies in per burst cycle. So here we are already set up for our second cycle. Since we're at the special 2, we only need 9 resistance ups. Throw the special 2 at 9, that again brings us up to our magic number of 19. Baiting out the special 2 from Drax, punish with a medium to trigger unstable for a second time, and then we're going to be spamming heavies again, and this burst phase ends up doing him in. You can see like the red number is really climbing up the more heavies that you land in the fight, so some really decent damage there. Alright, let's go ahead and review the damage rotations. So to start, use your basic attacks to build up your resistance up passives, and then use your special 1 when you're at 14 stacks. That's going to give you 19 total after the special attack. Now we didn't talk about this, but I will show it off next, and that's in a long fight you want to instead use your special 3 first while you're unstable. That's going to end up applying a ton of physical vulnerability debuffs. So after you're at 19 stacks, punish a special attack with a medium to trigger unstable, and then start spamming your heavy attacks. If you've done it correctly up to this point, you should be able to get in a maximum of 4 heavies. And then from there, you should be almost to your special 2, so use that when you're at 9 stacks of resistance up, and that'll again bring you up to 19 total. Spam your heavy attacks there again, and then repeat as necessary with your special 2. Alright, let's take a look at a longer fight in real time. This is a Thor Jane Foster. She has about 700,000 health. So typically what you would find in like an act or story quest boss, that kind of health pool. So we're going to play this fight a little bit differently. It's a little bit slower than the previous rotation. I'm kind of alternating here between my basic combos and my heavy attacks, and that kind of serves 2 purposes. I don't want to trigger unstable until I'm at 3 bars of power, and in the meantime the heavies are also serving to build up my heavy proficiency passives on my way to starting my first damage phase. So we're at 16 resistance up passives here now. We're at the special 3. So here what I want to do, bait out the special, trigger unstable, then launch the special 3. The special 3 gives you a bunch of physical vulnerability debuffs. If you do it while unstable, you get a ton of extras. So you see we started out with 50 and they're ticking down one by one. Since we triggered unstable, we can immediately go into the 4 heavies, and then from here we've already bursted down 350,000 of her health in just like a minute or so. So at this point you're already set up for your next burst phase. Special 2 at 9 resistance ups gets you to 19, punish the special with a medium, and you're already into your second set of heavy attacks. One thing that I really like about Sandman's rotation is that it's very flexible. Like if you need to focus just on Petrify for power or regen control, you can just stick to that special 1, or if you need the decelerates for evade and unstoppable, you can just focus on the special 2 here. So we're about to enter our final burst phase here, and again this is a 700,000k health pool, and we get it down in roughly a minute and 40 seconds or so. She doesn't even survive this last set of heavy attacks. So you know, again, like I was saying earlier, he is not the fastest science gem out there, but he is very reliable, very sturdy, and the damage isn't half bad either. Alright, last thing I want to cover are his synergies, and they mostly serve to allow you to specialize in a specific piece of his utility. None of them are required to use them. They'll really only be useful in very specific situations. So we have this first one here with the spiders. This gives him an automatic counter to miss whenever the opponent is decelerated. Main problem with this synergy is that you do need to get to your special 2 and have those decelerates applied before you get the miss counter. So at any point up to that second bar of power, you are still going to be vulnerable to miss. You think about this one, you probably just want to bring like a better miss counter, but like in a pinch, he could definitely serve this purpose, if you absolutely needed him to. Second one I want to point out here is this one with Green Goblin and Venom. So this just increases the potency of his Petrifies. If you're going to be spamming your special 1 in a fight, this can give you a little bit of extra heal reversal, a little bit of extra power reversal. But again, similar to the previous synergy, if you really do need that increased potency in Petrify, you're probably better off bringing somebody else like Void or Mr. Fantastic. And the last one I want to talk about is this one here with the other Sinister Six members. So, now you're not going to scroll. There we go. So this one increases his combat power rate by 10% against hero tag champions. Now, when I tested this one out, I didn't really like using it because I felt like in a fight where I was focused on his damage, it really kind of messed up like the rhythm and the tempo of the fight. So you end up with like too much power and then you're getting to your special 3 by accident. I found it super messy. However, if you're in a situation where you need to stick to a specific special attack, like if you're spamming that special 1 for the Petrifies, if you're spamming that special 2 for the Decelerates, this synergy actually does go a long way toward letting you spam those specials more frequently. That's going to do it for this one, folks. I ended up taking Sandman to rank 5 a few weeks ago for the upcoming war season. He's a tactic attacker. I suspect that he is going to see quite a bit of use there this season. If you've made it this far into the video, please leave me a comment below that says, "Enter Sandman." If this guide helped you, you can help me right back by liking the video and sharing it with your friends and alliance. If you aren't subbed, now is a great time to do so. I think you'll like all the other stuff that I have to offer. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.